anybody who's felt like a misfit or that they didn't belong.
Queerness, religious faith, and art can coexist in harmony, and that marginalized communities are worthy of God's love.
Put yourself out there to God. Be like, I'm not hiding anything.
If you can't love yourself, how the hell are you going to love somebody else?
I don't think you can have social justice or revolution or any kind of meaningful change without art, without the creators, the storytellers.
Love and laughter conquer hate every time.
Why are you telling us where we can be?
Love is love, no matter who you are. Love is love, no matter who you are or who you love. We're all in this together. I want to briefly talk about something that's been on my mind. Today's topic is queerness, religious faith, and art, and how they fit together like pieces of a fabulous puzzle. LGBTQ individuals have painted our world with their unique colors for centuries, making it more interesting and insightful and beautiful. From Oscar Wilde's wit to Sir Elton John's music, they've enriched our culture and made us a better place to be. So let's embrace our differences. And as RuPaul said, the beautiful philosopher, if you can't love yourself, how the hell are you going to love somebody else? So let's celebrate the beautiful tapestry of life because love and laughter conquer hate every time. Today, on A Funny Way of Looking, Mary Sarchizian believes queerness and religious faith can coexist in harmony and that marginalized communities are worthy of God's love. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, buckle up for a captivating conversation with our brilliant guest, Mary Sarchizian, an Orthodox misfit and artist extraordinaire. She combines faith, identity, and social justice in her striking art, also known as Marza. She explores iconography, sacred art, anime, and street art, inspiring people to find God in unexpected places. As a queer person of faith, she turns adversity into hope and strength through her art, defying limitations. So get ready for an exciting exchange filled with eye-opening insights and creative wisdom from the incredible Mary Sarchizian. Mary, how are you doing today? I'm so excited to have you here.
Hey, Michael, I'm doing good. This is my first time ever being on a live, so we'll see how it goes. New experience.
There's nobody watching. It's just you and me. We're here just together.
All right.
Let's just jump right into it. So tell us about your journey, as an artist and how it led you to explore both your faith and queerness. Let's start right there.
Yeah, so I was always drawing since I was a little kid, and also being raised in the Orthodox Church. I always had icons all around me, at home, at church. Before the parents and I had like settled into our place, we didn't have a TV yet for the apartment, so I would always just be looking at the icons, and so I feel like that subconsciously stuck with me. If I want to get into some more metaphysical traditional stuff, when I was a baby, we have this tradition in Armenian families called automatik. And so basically they put items out in front of the kid, and whatever the kid picks, it might have something to do with their future. Mm-hmm. I picked up cash and a VHS of Sleeping Beauty. And at that time, my parents kind of interpreted it as, she's going to work for Disney or she's going to be an animator.
Uh-huh.
And then, career changes and existential crises later, here I am being an illustrator and an artist.
So, it kind of worked out, right? You're an illustrator artist and you make your own art. That's like working for Disney for yourself, right?
For my own Disney.
Yeah. So, by the way, I love the fact that you're into anime. What's your favorite anime?
Favorite anime? It constantly shifts, but I would have to say Fullmetal Alchemist.
Yeah.
Would be the number one spot.
What are the things that mostly play into your art? Is it the iconography? Is it the anime? Is it graffiti? Is it street art?
It's kind of a combination of everything. When the journey to what is now like Art of Marza and my journey as a professional artist, really came by chance, you know. It was birthed during the pandemic.
Hmm.
There was nothing to do except take walks outside. That was like the only activity you could really do is take walks outside, mass with your neighbors. And I would just draw, you know, little icons on like, you know, shipping labels and, you know, stuff like that and just put them around. And that's just kind of how it started, you know. And one of the ways me getting into iconography really started was I would draw during church. Because during college and when I was coming to the realization that I was queer, it was obviously like a very big, like, mental, emotional, spiritual hurdle. So there was a time where I was getting so much anxiety just being in church. So
Yeah.
what I would do is I would take the bulletins and then I would just start sketching what I saw in church. I would look at the icons. Oh, I see the Virgin Mary. I'll draw her. And so basically, a lot of it was born out of adversity, whether it be, you know, finding something to do during a global pandemic or drawing to, you know, be able to kind of fidget and quell my anxiety being in
Hmm.
church. Um, that's kind of the reason why my artist name is Marza. So it's a combination of Mary and the Romanian word for cabbage, which is Varza. And I'm Armenian and Romanian, and in Romanian we kind of have a saying where it's basically like if you call something Varza, it's like it's messed up. It's like, oh, my brain is Varza. It's like it kind of like being discombobulated in a
Yeah.
way. So I combined my name with Varza because at that time, you know, the world and my mental health and stuff was cabbage.
Gotcha. You
Yeah.
know what? Let's show some of people some of your art because I love what you've got here. Like you were talking about Mary. Like, tell us about this piece, especially start with the piece on the right and how this all came together like this.
So this came from me just having some late night thoughts about, you know, what it meant to be human and what it meant to say that God became human.
Hmm.
And so I was just thinking, I believe this was under the influence of some heavenly herb. Um, did Jesus have nightmares as a kid? So
Maybe, probably, right?
yeah, so I was just thinking, yeah, like, did he ever have nightmares? Did his mom ever come in the middle of the night to him crying or
Yeah,
scared? And that's where the this kind of just inspiration came from. Just
yeah.
seeing a God of vulnerability,
I like it.
not just of strength, because you know strength comes from vulnerability too. To
Yeah.
be able to let down your walls, I think, really proves how strong and brave a
You
person can
got a
be.
piece that we're going to get to that just exemplifies that whole statement, and I love it. Tell me about this one, about these.
Oh yeah, so with the I'm trying to make sure that I'm seeing right. The one on the left, the one of the Virgin Mary.
Hmm.
So this was based off of an icon called the Softener of Evil Hearts.
Okay.
And you know, when you're queer in a religious space, you often have a lot of people out to completely misunderstand you, misinterpret you, cause harm to you, um, you know, emotionally, mentally, God forbid, physically. And I just really related to that icon so much. And I actually saw the icon itself. It's considered a miracle icon. It streams myrrh.
Hmm.
In Orthodoxy, we have a lot of instances of miracles where the icon either starts streaming myrrh or oil or just something very fragrant. And so I saw the actual one that was streaming in person. And I remember, you know, looking over the icon, and this was still when I was still like very upset and like trying to like you know make sense of all the homophobia and isolation and hatred that I and many of my other friends who were also in the church were feeling. And so I kind of just like looked at that icon and I was like, can you make a miracle for us?
Hmm.
Like what, like can you do something to protect us? And that the imagery of it just always stuck with me. The Virgin Mary being stabbed by swords,
Yeah.
all pointing to her.
it's the are the swords pointed to her a source of strength or defiance, or what do they mean to you?
To me, it feels like a source of protection, taking in all that pain and rendering it, all that hatred, just weak.
And, okay, I like that. I want to see if I can show something else here. Um, you talk about the outcast, and in one of your paintings that I really love, you start talking about protect the outcast. How did that come up?
So this was actually inspired by one of my favorite Disney movies, which is Hunchback of Notre Dame,
Hmm.
where Esmeralda is singing "God Help the Outcasts," and just that song just hit me so hard. And so this is loosely inspired by that. Disney, do not come after me, please. It's completely different. It says protect, not help.
Yes.
So yeah, just gotta say that.
Disney's not going to come
But
after you because we love you and it's an amazing piece.
yeah, and it's funny, because I'll have friends who are, they're not religious anymore, or they're lapsed Catholic, lapsed Orthodox, what have you, but they still have a sense of reverence and respect towards the Virgin Mary.
Hmm.
And there's just something about her, just something very like serene and calming and protecting, that I think really resonates with a lot of people, even people who are not religious. There's something about her that still sticks.
Yeah.
No matter how much stuff you could hate about Christianity, I'll still see people who have so much beef with it, rightfully so, still have a connection to her. So she's got a special place for me, and I'm named after her. She's my patron saint.
There you go.
So I have that connection with her.
That and cabbage.
Cabbage, yes.
Yes.
A
So
staple.
let me ask you this. Like what role do you think like art can play in promoting like social justice and supporting like any marginalized group?
Well, art's an extension of the soul, and art is how we convey information.
Hmm.
Um, I don't think you can have social justice or revolution or any kind of meaningful change without art, without the creators, the storytellers.
Yeah. I mean, usually I think people think of the musicians, because there'll be the radical music and there'll be the dancing and stuff like this. Where does art come in? It's artists like yourself painting. I think there's a lot of examples.
I think this is where the graffiti aspect of it really plays an important role. Because just putting the art out there, whether it's stickers on a pole or it's people, doing throw ups on trains and stuff, um, there's just something about having the visual media that I think can be just as powerful and melodic as music.
Yes.
Especially since, years down the line when things are in rubble and people are going to look to see how were the people like before, the art's gonna play a significant role in what people assume about a past society.
Yeah. You just mentioned the throw ups on wherever you want to throw them up, but have you ever done graffiti yourself?
No, I'm too scared to. Aside from like stickers and slaps and stuff, I'm too scared to try to pick up a spray can and do that. I feel like I would be too clumsy and loud and.
You're not going to do the Bansky thing and go out and paint things on the wall, even though. Would you consider Bansky graffiti, or what do you consider Bansky?
I wouldn't consider it graffiti. I think the difference is graffiti has to do with um with letters. It has to do with how you play around with letters and how they look. So, there's always arguments about, between street art and graffiti, or commercial street art and, more like guerrilla street art.
Okay.
Um, I'd say graffiti more so has to do with lettering.
Okay. So the big words that had like the bubbled form and the highlights and the things like that are more graffiti than paintings of people and things.
Yeah. Some
Okay.
people will incorporate like art or little designs in their tags and stuff. Um, but I think the worlds can overlap, but there definitely are some differences. And I think if you talk with a lot of graffiti writers, they'll definitely
Okay.
mention those differences too.
I got you. One of the things that we haven't touched on hardcore yet is, um, and I want you to respond to the critics on this, is like, um, there are people who say queerness and religious faith can't coexist. You are definitely on the other side of that. Explain why you think it can, and what do you say to the critics?
Well, one of the things that I really dislike when people want to talk about where queer people can be welcomed and exist is, why are you telling us where we can be?
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, obviously I believe in a God, but I'm just saying this like in general for everyone. Like, if there is a God, why are we shutting people out from that?
Yes.
Because are we going to act like queer people haven't existed throughout, even the church's history? I mean, Michelangelo painted the Sistine Chapel, and there's
Mm-hmm.
arguments that he was gay. In the Orthodox Church, we have saints who were dressing up as men and living as monks in the monasteries. And with some of their stories, the abbots of those monasteries knew that.
Mm-hmm.
So even among the church, we have examples of like gender defiance, how like a lot of people will like to call it when they're bashing transgender people. Um, just we've just always been here. And I think it's really up to each person to decide whether they can coexist with a faith or not.
Yeah.
Um, I just think that if someone is going to be serious about a faith and serious about God, the idea of trying to exclude whole swaths of people is, it just makes me think you don't seriously take God then, because
Yeah. So,
it's like, are we? Sorry, I'm like fumbling words here. But basically, like, if I'm going to be serious about my belief in God, I am not going to sit here and say where he's not allowed to be,
yes.
or who is allowed, to commune with him, speak with him. Um, Especially when talking about things that, we don't choose or can't
Yep.
control.
Let me ask you this. Let's take it a step further than like what, I don't know, advice, stories. What do you have for queer artists who might be struggling with their identity and faith? What would you say?
Um, I would say that sometimes you just need to drown everything out. If you need to take a break, whether that be from church or anything like that, and just really just put yourself out there to God. Be like, I'm not hiding anything. You know what I'm thinking. This is me. Um, I also think it helps to find other people who are in the situation. I feel like queer people of faith really should, be in community with each other, and not just of one religion. I have a lot of love and solidarity also for like queer Muslims, because I see a lot of overlap in my experience being Eastern Orthodox and queer, and the experience of being Muslim and queer,
Mm-hmm.
especially now since it's Ramadan and it's also Great Lent. I feel like we can relate to each other in being queer and trying to respect these periods of like almsgiving and fasting and stuff like that, while we also have people telling us, well, you're gay, what's the point of doing this? Like, you're a sinner anyways. It's like, so basically as if like any kind of sacrifice or devotion that you do is like just just nothing in God's eyes, and that's just not true. That's
Yeah.
not for
No.
anyone to decide.
I, you just, it's kind of like you just brought something up to me that I hadn't even thought about, mostly because I was raised in, Christian society. And when you said gay Muslims, I was like, wow, I didn't even think to go outside of Christianity and think how these things might be. impacting other religions and other people in different societies. Like, that's something to think about. We'll have to have another whole show on that. Yeah. So, what do you want your art to do? How do you want it to impact people's lives and that they encounter your art? And is it something you want to have be a change maker only in the LGBT community, in the entire world? What is it you want your art to do?
Um, I just want my art to reach out to people, anybody who's felt, like a misfit or that they didn't belong.
Mm-hmm.
Um, whether that be LGBT people, neurodivergent people, people struggling with mental illness, um, poor people, just anyone. Because for me, I feel like, oftentimes a lot of our identities, they kind of connect and intersect. I was raised pretty low income. I also struggle with mental health. I'm I'm queer. I'm Orthodox. I'm a daughter of immigrants,
Mm-hmm.
and so many of those things, can make it feel like you don't belong anywhere. Whether it's being someone with two ethnicities like I am, it's kind of this feeling of like, okay, I'm gay and Orthodox. I don't belong here. I'm Armenian and Romanian. I don't belong here. I'm not feminine enough, so I don't really belong with like, groups of women. And I think this is also where my love of anime plays a role because I feel like a common trope in anime is people that are trapped in two worlds. Like in
Mm-hmm.
Naruto, is Naruto a human or is he a demon? Because he
Good
has the
question.
nine-tailed fox, Blue Exorcist, character who's both human and demon. Or even going into Western media, I grew up with Danny Phantom,
Mm-hmm.
boy who's both human and ghost. And I always related so much to that, and I feel like a lot of queer people relate to that as well. Um, just being in two worlds that people think cannot possibly clash or collide.
That's those are good examples. Like, where do you envision the future of like those intersections of art, faith, and queerness? Where do you see it all going?
I really don't know, but I feel like hopefully it, draws people to have more empathy and compassion.
Yeah, I do too.
Because I feel like I'm someone who very much is in love with animation. There have been so many animated movies that make me cry. It doesn't even have to be sad. It just has to have beautiful storytelling. I'm already crying. Just I'm such a
Mm-hmm.
crybaby when it comes to these things. But I have to wonder if artists really think about that they might be responsible for the reason why someone's alive. And the reason why I say that is because, one year I was at Anime Expo. I can't remember the exact year, but it was the year that they did the world premiere of this anime movie called Your Name.
Mm-hmm.
And the director was there. And Makoto Shinkai, very famous anime director, makes so many tear-jerking movies. He was there, and after the movie premiere, everyone was already in tears because the movie was so good. They did a Q&A. And this guy goes up and he says that his movies helped him during a time where he was feeling suicidal.
Yeah.
And that it was his dream also, to become an animator. The director was floored when the translator finished translating for him what the guy had said. And then was telling the story about how when he was going through bouts of depression, it was Hayao Miyazaki's movies that helped him and inspired him. So it was kind of this like chain. It's like one artist inspired the other,
Mm-hmm.
and it becomes almost like a whole ancestral chain
I think
of
that.
artists, putting a spark in people's eyes. And so I just started crying when that whole interaction happened because you never know if your art or even if a cartoon that you helped work on literally saved people.
Yep. I think that's fabulous. I think that any art that can do that, making people laugh, I think is one thing. Making people cry and really think, I think that's another thing. And um, artists that can do that, musicians, photographers, everyone that can do that. I just love them. I love that you related that story. Let me jump out of the box for a second. We're going to do something that I've been doing with other people. We're going to play some this or that. We're going to learn more about Mary Sarchizian. I'm going to ask you questions. They have to do maybe with art, maybe with life. You get to choose one, this or that. You can not choose both. You cannot choose neither. I know it's hard sometimes, but let's start and see if we can do it. Here's
Okay.
first one: iconography or graphic art?
See, I could get really pedantic
Uh-huh.
and make a whole spiel about it. I'm gonna go with graphic art
Okay.
because for me, iconography is specific to worship.
Yeah.
So graphic art, you could possibilities are endless with that.
About anime or Western animation?
Anime.
Okay.
That was
Well,
an easy. That was an easy one.
I know I'm going with easy. How about art exhibitions or street art festivals?
Street art festivals.
Yeah, I love them. I think I just like eating the food too. Let
Yeah,
me
and I
see.
also just like the low barrier of entry. You get to really see some like diamonds in the rough instead of always just seeing something that's curated that
Yeah,
you may or may not even relate to at all.
yeah. How about abstract or realistic art?
Abstract.
How about let's go spiritual retreats or pride parades?
This is something where I would pick neither because I'm not the biggest fan of either.
I'll let you do neither on this one.
I like pride events, but as someone who's not so big on crowds,
Hmm.
um, I like events that get a little more creative. Like I here in LA, in some parts of LA, we have something called like Dyke Day, and so it's just everyone just brings their towels and stuff, and it kind of becomes like this whole massive picnic cookout kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
And so I'm definitely a fan of stuff like that. Spiritual retreats, I don't know. It really depends.
Okay, we'll go
It
with that.
really depends.
How about classic religious text or modern interpretations?
Mm, I'm gonna go with classic religious texts because at least those are like primary sources,
Yep. How
whereas the
about
modern interpretations are just. We're see. I'm gonna end up having all these pedantic explanations for each one. I can't. I even in school they were like, okay, pick this or that, and I'm like, how about I give you a really long-winded explanation of why it could be both?
it could absolutely be both or neither, or sometimes an intersection of the two, right? How about art as
New
activism or art for self-expression?
art for self-expression.
Okay. How about creating art for galleries or for personal spaces?
I'm gonna go with personal spaces because I guess my personal space could be a gallery.
Okay.
I
There
could
you
put
go.
out some wine and crackers and invite people over and be like, "Hey,
So let
come
me
to my
ask you
gallery."
one last one. Public speaking or one-on-one conversations about your art?
Getting my hands chopped off.
Are you going to make it a performance art piece that way?
Yes, yes.
Okay, we'll go with it. I definitely want people to stay in touch with you and learn more from you and be able to talk with you one on one. They can get in touch with you at artofmarza.com, and they can also get in touch with you on Instagram and Twitter at Art of Marza. And um, thank you for being on. This was just a fantastic discussion. I really appreciate you. So we'll
Yeah,
do
this
it
this
again.
was fun, and the fact that I didn't faint, I think that was a plus.
That you know what, not fainting is a bonus, and I appreciate that also because I don't have any way to revive you. So
I,
thank you for being on. Thank you everybody for watching. We'll catch you next time on A Funny Way of Looking.